Murrow Cougs, and welcome to another episode of Murrow Minutes Goes Virtual for the spring 2022 semester. My name is Mackenzie Johnson, and I'm an assistant director here in the Murrow College. And today we're talking about a really tough subject. We're talking about mental health. And we have some awesome guest speakers here, not just from our campus, but from some external resources that we're really excited to share with you today. Mental health is a really challenging topic, so please know that we are going to be talking about not only mental health, but self-care and other resources that you can reach out to on campus. If this episode by any means is triggering to you, please reach out to the resources listed in the YouTube channel below, and we'd be happy to connect with you outside of this episode. But today, like I said, we have some great guest speakers that are going to share their experiences with mental health here at WSU and what they have experienced, especially over the COVID-19 pandemic. There's been physical illness, but certainly mental illness, not just with students, but with faculty, staff, everybody in the community. So we thought that we'd get together, we'd have an honest conversation about what that looks like. What does mental health mean to us? What does self-care mean to us? And how can we do that in the midst of all this craziness? And then, like I said, share a few resources that are just different than maybe some things that you've seen in the past. That being said, there are lots of different resources available to students. We've talked about families, friends, Cougar Health Services, your advisors, videos like this, but other things that we haven't talked about are some external counseling services that may be available to you if none of these other options have worked, or if you're looking for a little bit of a different mechanism to get involved in taking care of your mental health. So with that, I would like to introduce another one of our guest speakers today, Kim Johnson, who is here from BetterHelp, which is an online counseling service, to talk a little bit about that experience and how our students can utilize this online service, whether it's face-to-face, texting, email, how they can utilize this service when none of these other options maybe have worked or when they're looking for something a little different. So to kick us off, Kim, would you tell us a little bit just about yourself and why you got into this profession?
So yeah, my name is Kim Johnson, and wow. So I'm a licensed professional counselor. I have been for many moons at this point. I think when I think back to being 8 years old, I remember writing in my journal that I wanted to be a counselor. This is something that has always been I just a part of who I am, I think. So it took a lot of work and a lot of time on my part, but yeah, that's how I kind of found my way to this.
Fantastic. And now kind of moving into, more specifically diving into that mental health, I'm just getting an outside perspective. All of us are, from a campus location and are pretty ingrained in that higher education system. Mm-hmm. But what is your current take on the mental health state of college age students?
Oh, I kind of feel like the college age student population is really at a point of crisis. I don't work in a college setting at this point, but I have colleagues who do work in that environment, and it is really almost to a point of crisis. Developmentally, there is so much that's going on for college age students, and we're not just talking about freshmen who are transitioning, even though that's a huge transition. It's just that whole thing. I think it was actually Jackie that talked about, and Carlos moving from one state to the other. I mean, there's so much that's happening. You're having to deal with moving out of your home, maybe from your state of origin or your town of origin. You're having to move in with people. You're having to maybe manage your time. You have to learn how to manage your freedom. So you have all of that. And then you're dealing with the stress of classes and with new social environments and new demands on your time and on your energy, for sure. But then on top of all of that, we've had COVID. And COVID has put this in this place of just continual unknowing. We don't have any kind of predictability. We don't know for sure if masks are going to be required, or if we're going to quarantine tomorrow, or if we're going to be in class tomorrow, if we're going to be virtual. So we have that. And then if you add to that isolation that came with quarantining, isolation tends to exacerbate almost every mental health issue. And so if you look at college students, and you all are just dealing with so many different things, so many new things, which are new and exciting, but huge. And then you're doing that on top of trying to manage it through a kind of a state of isolation or a state of definite higher stress. So I feel like there really is almost a crisis in mental health. You know, you guys have your resource center, your health resource center, and it's such a great resource. And always, if you are, I would imagine, I know this is how it is for us here where I am, that if you're in crisis, always walk into a resource center like that, because they will be available to help you. But what we're finding is longer term mental health is tough for colleges to manage. It's just, there are so much need, there's just so much need, and there's just not enough resources or enough time with all of these professionals in your counseling center to address the need. So that's kind of how I have seen it and how it kind of manifests in my world as well. I mean, outside, as an outside resource, that's what I see happening with college age people.
So really, you're talking about that, you know, Cougar Health Services, all of our resources on campus, you can absolutely go there if you're in a time of crisis and they will assist you. But what about that longer term, like you said, mental health struggle, right? That like Jackie said, you may have a healed bone, but you may still need to do physical therapy for years before it's finally healed, right? So how do our students get access to something like that? And as we were thinking about that, BetterHelp actually came to mind. So could you tell us a little bit about BetterHelp, but also other just online counseling services and what that looks like?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because the online counseling realm really is relatively new. We've had the ability to do Zoom and to do these kinds of meetings, but really having specific services for mental health online is relatively new. And because of that, I feel like maybe there's just not a lot of confidence in it yet, or maybe there's just not enough knowledge base out there about what to expect. I know I was that way even as a provider, right? I didn't know for sure what the qualifications of the counselors were. I didn't understand what confidentiality was going to look like. So as I got involved with BetterHelp, I did lots of research on different kinds of, there's Talkspace, and there's actually quite a few of them now. And as I did that research, I started to understand a few things. First of all, BetterHelp and these other services actually vet all of their counselors. All of their providers are licensed to do this work. So you're not just talking to somebody as a, like a support group or as somebody just to listen. Most of us have been through years of college and years of experience. We have to have a license in our state, which means that we're in good standing with our boards. They're really pretty serious about it, and they stay on top of licensure, and they stay on top of continuing education and things like that. So that made me feel great, right? So that I knew that the providers that were out there are qualified and kind of ready to take on about anything that is handed to them. And then I think something else that kind of bother or maybe that worries people is that the online experience is different. I know I do private practice as well. And so I sit in a room with my clients, and it is a little different. To be fair, it is different to sit with somebody in a room versus sit with somebody like in this kind of a venue. However, there are some real advantages I have found with BetterHelp. One of them is that right now, not just your resource centers at the college, but all clinics right now are completely inundated. There's a lot of mental health crises kind of in our whole, probably worldwide, but definitely across our country. We're having a lot of mental health need kind of crop up. Probably a lot of that is just having the knowledge base about mental health, but part of it is COVID. It really has been very impactful. So if you try to get into a clinic about anywhere right now, you have at least a month's wait. And what if you're already to that crisis place? What if you're already to this place that you need assistance like now? BetterHelp is great for that. BetterHelp usually will get you in touch with a counselor within 48 hours. And another advantage that they offer you is you go into BetterHelp, you go into their interface and you fill out a questionnaire about the things you're struggling with, about what kind of counselor you want. You can specify if you need a counselor who is open to LGBTQ. You can talk to them or indicate a preference for a religious counselor. You can really put your preferences out there, and you don't get to do that when you go to like a clinic or a live counselor. You don't often get to do that. You don't find out of those things until after you've met. So you go out there, you fill out this questionnaire, and BetterHelp will get you in touch with a counselor in about 48 hours or so. And I can't remember who it was that talked about that the first, I think maybe it was Jackie that was talking about the first counselor might not be a hit. My niece, she's 12. She just barely started counseling on BetterHelp. And the first counselor that she met with really just didn't feel right. And so she swapped counselors. And again, within 48 hours from that point, there was a new counselor with whom she really has a connection. So there really are some benefits with BetterHelp that even beyond live counseling that offers you different choices, different opportunities. And I think it's a great way too, to even if you want to know what mental health counseling feels like and what it can offer you, it's a great way to go about it, I think.
Absolutely. Not only the accessibility, right? For those of us that may still be quarantining and may not even physically be able to get out to get an appointment, even if we wanted one, but the accessibility of I can do it right here. And I can actually attest to the survey. I was curious about this service and wanted to see, hey, how valid is this? And I filled out that survey, and it wasn't even 48 hours. It was that same day that I got an automatic email from the counselor, but here's how to set up an appointment with me. I chose not to do it at the time because I was researching, but then after 48 hours, I got another email from the counselor saying, hey, encouraging me to reach back out. I actually had to go unsubscribe because they were so great at, hey, come back to us. And I love that because it's that first step. And if all you have to do is click a link to say schedule appointment, how cool is that, right? I think that accessibility, you hit on that just perfect. I think another nice thing about BetterHelp too is you can certainly do video, right? If you like that live piece, you can do email. There's kind of a texting option. It doesn't go right to your counselor's phone as I understand it, but if for that immediate kind of crisis help. And I think having that accessibility right now, even as another tool in your tool belt to have is really great.
That messaging is actually really cool. With my BetterHelp clients, I actually will respond to at least one message a day. So if they're messaging me every day because they're in the middle of a crisis, or they're just really trying to kind of get to know me or form that relationship, I respond to at least one message a day, if that is the need. And that is rare. If you're thinking about live counseling, most of the time you don't have access to your counselor unless you're there in front of them. And so being able to have access to your counselor, even for brief messages, touchstones during the day, maybe just encouragement or a little bit of direction or just a listening ear. Another thing is that it saves all your messages. And so it's really kind of cool. You kind of get to go back and read through all of your conversations as almost like a diary, right? And you have access to that.
Absolutely. And that's what I was also going to say as well, as having that record, but also as touch points throughout the week. Maybe it's not a crisis, but you throw a message to your counselor saying, hey, at our next appointment, I think I want to talk about this, right? How cool is that? And your counselor can say, got it. Let's make sure we hit on that at our next video appointment, right? And it's an unlimited type of service. And like Kim said, there's not just BetterHelp, there's Talkspace, there's all these different ones that have popped up, but they're vetted. The providers are qualified. There are student discounts and some insurances that will cover different components of these. But honestly, it can just be a great first step. If nothing else in this video really appealed to you as far as reaching out to your advisor, students, anything like that, BetterHelp, Talkspace, these other services can be a great resource. And we have a live person here to show us what that actually looks like. I mean, this is one of the faces you could potentially see on BetterHelp, right? They're right here, they're live. And I think that that's a really neat resource for us to be able to share today. Kim, just because we have your great expertise with us, besides BetterHelp and the things we've mentioned today, what are some things, anything that the rest of us can do to promote positive mental health, even if we're not in a counseling session or planning to attend one?
All right. Well, it's really cool because I think Jay, Jackie, and Carlos and Megan, like everybody touched on things that they do that are actually very healthy, that you take some downtime. I know Jade specifically talked about, I have to take a break sometimes, like sometimes it's too much. Making sure that you are getting enough sleep. That's huge. You always see that graph of college students that you have sleep, good grades, social life, and you can choose two, right? And I believe that's so true with you all. Like there's so much that you have to do and so many expectations that sometimes you don't get to all three of those things. And the first thing to go is sleep. The first thing that we will forego always is sleep, and sleep is imperative. We talk about self-care at this point. It's almost cliche, right? We almost talk about it and make fun of it. We see memes and videos about self-care, but honestly, it is very imperative. And self-care is many different things. Sleep is one of them, which we've already touched on. Eating well is another one. And again, that kind of gets sidelined in college because of, sometimes it's because of lack of funds. Sometimes it's lack of time. Sometimes it's just not wanting to get up and go and get groceries, right? It's time management, but eating well is important. Connecting with others. I think one of the people on this in this group talked about how they had no idea that talking to somebody could be helpful. And telling your story, being able to talk to somebody is actually very therapeutic. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a professional counselor for it to be effective. So being able to connect to others is really, really important. If we could really identify one of the most important characteristics of mental health, it is connection with other people, having social connection. And it can be through playing baseball. It can be through playing video games with a group of people. It can be through clubs that you're involved in school. But just being involved or around other people is very mentally healthy. I think that it's important to move your body. I think, and everybody's like workout, like it's not working out necessarily. Go walk, just go and walk. And if you can do it outside, even better. There's a lot of research out there right now that's addressing mental health and being outside, whether it is access to sunshine or whether it is access to different kind of air movement, whether it is our physical movement when we're outside. There are lots of different things that they're starting to identify. So getting outside, even when it's cold, trying to go outside and get some fresh air and different environment is very, very therapeutic. And then one other thing that we don't talk a lot about, but that counseling actually helps address, is having good boundaries. So often, I think, especially with college students, as you're learning how to navigate social, professional, and scholastic needs, your boundaries can get fuzzy. You forget how to say no when you're overwhelmed. You might take on more of your roommate's problems than you need to. You might actually be involved with relationships that are not healthy because you feel like you need to help take care of other people. We don't talk about healthy boundaries enough. I think. And so trying to figure out where those boundaries are to give yourself a like good connection with other people, but that you are not sacrificing yourself along the way. So yeah, that was a mouthful.
That's fantastic advice, though, and well put in kind of bullet point kind of pieces of why it's important, from sleep to connecting with others to, I mean, everything that we've talked about today. And I love that we saw it reiterated in what our students talked about, not said in the same ways, but really similar, taking that downtime, right, and reaching out to people. And hopefully this video helps whoever is watching, including this group participating today, to say, okay, I need to check in with myself. I need to see, have those patterns, those routines change that Megan pointed out, right? Should I talk to a friend just to see if they've noticed anything? I think that those are all really great resources. But if the only thing that anyone takes away from this video today, it's what we've all said and what we will keep saying, which is reach out to us. It's hard. It's not easy by any means. And there may be fear of judgment. There may be fear of the stigma of mental health. There may be fear of, like Megan said, never feeling better, right? So why would I reach out if I'm never going to feel better? But reach out to us. How do you know until you try? And we're here to help you try. So reach out to us. We've got all these awesome resources that we've linked down below in our video description. So be sure to check out those links as well. We will sign off with our video today, but remembering that anyone with a green ribbon in their virtual background or wearing it on campus is available to you for anything that you may need mental health related mental health related struggles. We are not counselors, but if you'll look at here today, we have some awesome connections with a lot of different resources that we can help get you to. So for today, Murrow Cougs, we will sign off by saying, as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Cougs.